Hey everybody, thank you so much for joining me here on the My Bourbon Journey Whiskey Review channel. So again, we're back at it. Foregate Whiskey Company's batch 10 or release number 10 called the Split Stave by Kelvin Rye. So again, they're doing a little bit of not necessarily a finish as you may think, but what this is where they've taken basically a constructed barrels. They've both toasted and charred barrels. So a medium toast and a char number 2. They basically did that for both of those or those kind of barrels, broke those apart, and then reconstructed them as a zebra. So they're incorporating both the charred and the toasted barrels within it. And again, I'll kind of show it here in the video so that you get an idea of what the construction of the innards of the barrel actually look like. So how it's being kind of introduced to both the char and the toasted aspect of the staves. So what this is, so this is coming in at 112.5 proof or 56.25% ABV. Mash bill on this, so this is an MGP sourced rye, 95.5 rye, so a very popular rye whiskey. And then it is non-age stated, and the MSRP was coming in at $185 on this one. Again, they do no chill filtering, and it is coming in at barrel strength. So the underlying also, it's non-age stated, but I was able to verify that the underlying rye whiskey here is going to be upwards of 7 years. So really, really nice age on a rye whiskey. So, and at barrel strength. So that's another plus there. So basically, again, what they're doing is they're taking that rye whiskey and then finishing it in these charred and toasted barrel finish. So you get a kind of a different aspect to that, very similar to what they did on their Split Stave by Kelvin bourbon that they did a few releases ago. So all right, why don't we go ahead and we'll get into the review. So typically what I try to do is we'll go through the appearance, nose it, taste it, and then get into anything else having to do with the whiskey itself. So, all right, so here you go. As you can see, again, really nice color, nice kind of deep amber, copper type of color to that. And again, move the whiskey around in the glass. Again, these higher proofs, you know, you always like to try to introduce a little bit of air to them, allow them to open up. Generally speaking, it will kind of help to improve the overall experience with the whiskey. So, all right, get into the nose here. Oh, man. So right away, you're just hit with this really, really nice, fresh mint note. Light milk chocolate on this one. And then here comes some of the orange citrus, or like maybe even a candied orange, something along those lines. Very, very sweet. Great baking spice on this. You know, a lot of that, even a little bit of like a clove, some nutmeg, maybe some cinnamon. A little bit of brown sugar that's there. Even a slight piney aspect to it. No dill, which I'm a huge fan of. I'm not a fan of the dill aspect in a rye whiskey. And then here's where some of the toasted aspect will kind of come in. So that toasted marshmallow, maybe even a slight coconut aspect that's there to it. Really nice rich oak that's there again. Just a fantastic nose. I mean, it's very complex, deep, rich. It's one of those ryes that you could like smell all day. And like when you're smelling this, and it being kind of around the holidays, right before Thanksgiving for me, you start to think of that holiday. Like, I mean, it's very Christmas, like Christmas in a glass almost. There's that just that potpourri of you know, the smells that it's kind of giving off. It's just a fantastic nose on this. All right, more importantly, let's see how this one tastes. Cheers. So like I got on the nose, right away you're getting a lot of that candied orange citrus, followed very quickly by some really nice like fresh mint that's there as well. Fantastic rye spice, lets you know that it's a higher proof rye whiskey. Great mouthfeel on it. You know, not overly thick, but nice enough to really kind of coat the palate, which is nice. And again, some of that like rich vanilla custard that's there as well. And here comes some of that toasted aspect to it, that marshmallow. You know, all what you get a lot of times for me with the toasted marshmallow is that I get a little bit of that sweetness that's there, along with like just a touch of smoke. So as the marshmallow begins to char, you know, you get that like little bit of the char, but still some of the sweetness. And that's what I get a lot of times with something that's been toasted, or at least done in the right way. Yeah, definitely more coconut for me on the palate than I got on the nose. It was a little bit there, a little more muted, but it's definitely there more on the palate for me than it was on the nose. But again, you go back to that rich oak that's there. You just know when there's that deep, like rich oak presence that's not overdone or over oaked. You just know that it's kind of almost been pulled at the right time. It just gives you that impression. And that's exactly what I'm getting with this, is that it's just the right amount of oak that's there. Again, those great baking spices, some of that cinnamon, nutmeg. Again, a little bit of that clove aspect to it. You even get a little bit more of that kind of more of a dark chocolate aspect to it on this one. Slight bitterness to it. But again, when you get that nice heavy rye aspect, it does. I mean, rye in itself is more of a pungent grain. So you're going to get a little bit of that, you know, the rye aspect to it. You expect to get that. But there's so many other rich characteristics to this that make this, for me, an absolutely incredible rye whiskey. And I would say probably one of the better rye whiskeys that I've had in quite some time. So it's a very good rye whiskey, and one I would say is definitely worth picking up if you're willing and able to shell out the $185 for this. I don't think you're going to be disappointed at all. It's an incredible rye whiskey, one that I look forward to picking up myself. So, and again, this sample was provided to me, you know, by Foregate. But aside from that, in just nosing and tasting this, and in tasting a lot of whiskeys, it's a really, really fantastic, well balanced, well put together rye whiskey. Again, you know, just to kind of recap a little bit, this is technically a finished whiskey. So they've taken their aged rye whiskey and then put these back into basically new barrels. So either charred, which was, I believe, a number 2 char, and then a medium toast. Broke those barrels down, put them all together, zebra aspect it, so they got char and then toasted, char, toasted. Filled up these barrels with their 7-year rye whiskey, let it age a little bit, and this is what you have. And it's an absolutely fantastic rye whiskey. So hopefully there will be a lot of other people who get an opportunity to to try this. I believe as of the making of this video, it's either released now, and this is just towards the end, just prior to Thanksgiving of 2020. So if you haven't had it yet, you're about ready to get it. And when it is released, I would give this a strong buy recommendation. For me, it's that good, and one that I look forward to picking up as well. So let's go back to the whiskey a little bit. In terms of the overall finish on this, I'd say it's probably medium plus. Again, it's got that lingering kind of candied orange aspect to it. Great rye spice that's there. Some of that baking chocolate. You know, it lingers a long time. So originally I had this as medium, but the more I kind of sat down with it a little bit, it lingered a little bit longer, which kind of for me put it into that medium plus kind of category. But again, those rich, you know, baking spices that are there, very, very nice oak presence that's there. And just kind of even probably some little bit of that vanilla custard aspect that's kind of mixed in there right at the end. And for me, I mean, I would define this as for sure, you know, Christmas in a glass. It's very spicy and kind of herbal and sweet and all of that. It's a lot of what you smell around the holidays with all of the kind of potpourris and things, just very, very fragrant, both on the nose and the palate. I mean, it's very well put together. So with that being said, so if for some reason you've had an opportunity to try this, or when you do try this, you know, please leave a comment below. Let me know your thoughts on this and your experience with it. I love to get feedback from everyone, knowing kind of just how they, you know, what their experience really was with it. So love to hear that. If you'd like to follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all of those places, you can find me at My Bourbon Journey. If you'd like to help support or contribute to the channel, you can through my Patreon page, which I'll have linked in the description below. So more importantly, thank you so much for tuning into another one of my reviews. I appreciate all of the support. And remember, it's about the journey and not the destination. Cheers.